Red Dog, for our white and our excellent nights, for the nights of swift running, far-ranging, far-seeing, good hunting, sure cunning, for the smells of the dawning untainted, ere dew has departed, for the rush through the mist, and the quarry blind-started, for the cry of our mates when the sambar has wheeled and is standing at bay, for the risk and the riot of night, for the sleep at the lair-mouth by day. It is met, and we go to the fight. Bay, oh bay! It was after the letting in of the jungle that the pleasantest part of Mowgli's life began. He had the good conscience that comes from paying debts. All the jungle was his friend, and just a little afraid of him. The things that he did and saw and heard when he was wandering from one people to another, with or without his four companions, would make many, many stories, each as long as this one. So you will never be told how he met the mad elephant of Mandla, who killed 22 bullocks, drawing 11 carts of coined silver to the government treasury, and scattered the shiny rupees in the dust. How he fought Jacala the crocodile all one long night in the marshes of the north, and broke his skinning knife on the brute's back plates. How he found a new and longer knife round the neck of a man who had been killed by a wild boar, and how he tracked that boar and killed him as a fair price for the knife. How he was caught up once in the great famine by the moving of the deer, and nearly crushed to death in the swaying hot herds, and how he saved Hati the Silent from being once more trapped in a pit with a stake at the bottom, and how next day he himself fell into a very cunning leopard trap, and how Hati broke the thick wooden bars to pieces above him, how he milked the wild buffaloes in the swamp, and how, but we must tell one tale at a time. Father and Mother Wolf died, and Mowgli rolled a big boulder against the mouth of the cave and cried the death song over them. Baloo grew very old and stiff, and even Bagheera, whose nerves were steel and whose muscles were iron, was a shade slower on the kill than he had been. Akela turned from grey to milky white with pure age. His ribs stuck out, and he walked as though he had been made of wood, and Mowgli killed for him. But the young wolves, the children of the disbanded Seoni pack, throve and increased, and when there were about 40 of them, masterless, full-voiced, clean-footed 5-year-olds, Akela told them that they ought to gather themselves together and follow the law, and run under one head as befitted the free people. This was not a question in which Mowgli concerned himself, for, as he said, he had eaten sour fruit, and he knew the tree it hung from. But when Phao, son of Phaona, his father was the grey tracker in the days of Akela's headship, fought his way to the leadership of the pack according to the jungle law, and the old calls and songs began to ring under the stars once more, Mowgli came to the council rock for memory's sake. When he chose to speak, the pack waited till he had finished, and he sat at Akela's side on the rock above Phao. Those were days of good hunting and good sleeping. No stranger cared to break into the jungles that belonged to Mowgli's people, as they called the pack. And the young wolves grew fat and strong, and there were many cubs to bring to the looking over. Mowgli always attended a looking over, remembering the night when a black panther brought a naked brown baby into the pack, and the long call, "Look, look well, O wolves," made his heart flutter. Otherwise, he would be far away in the jungle with his 4 brothers, tasting, touching, seeing, and feeling new things. One twilight, when he was trotting leisurely across the ranges to give Akela the half of a buck that he had killed, while the 4 jogged behind him, sparring a little, and tumbling one another over for joy of being alive, he heard a cry that had never been heard since the bad days of Shere Khan. It was what they call in the jungle a feel, a hideous kind of shriek that the jackal gives when he is hunting behind a tiger, or when there is a big killing afoot. If you can imagine a mixture of hate, triumph, fear, and despair, with a kind of leer running through it, you will get some notion of the feel that rose and sank and wavered and quavered far away across the Wangunga. The 4 stopped at once, bristling and growling. Mowgli's hand went to his knife, and he checked, blood in his face. His eyebrows nodded. "There is no striped one dare kill here," he said. "That is not the cry of the Forerunner," answered Grey Brother. "It is some great killing. Listen." It broke out again, half sobbing, half chuckling, as though the jackal had soft human lips. Then Mowgli drew deep breath and ran to the Council Rock, overtaking on his way hurrying wolves of the pack. Phao and Akela were on the rock together, and below them, every nerve strained, sat the others. The mothers and the cubs were cantering off to their lairs, for when the Feel cries, it is no time for weak things to be abroad. They could hear nothing except the Wangunga rushing and gurgling in the dark, and the light evening winds among the treetops, till suddenly across the river a wolf called. It was no wolf of the pack, for they were all at the rock. The note changed to a long despairing bay, and "Da-hole!" it said. "Da-hole! Da-hole! Da-hole!" They heard tired feet on the rocks, and a gaunt wolf, streaked with red on its flanks, his right forepaw useless, and his jaws white with foam, flung himself into the circle and lay gasping at Mowgli's feet. "Good hunting! Under whose headship?" said Phao gravely. "Good hunting. Wantala am I," was the answer. He meant that he was a solitary wolf, fending for himself, his mate, and his cubs in some lonely lair, as do many wolves in the south. Wantala means an outlier, one who lies out from any pack. Then he panted, and they could see his heartbeats shake him backward and forward. "What moves?" said Phao, for this is the question all the jungle asks after the Feel cries. "The Dahole. The Dahole of the Deccan. Red Dog the Killer. They came north from the south, saying the Deccan was empty and killing out by the way. When this moon was new, there were 4 to me, my mate and 3 cubs. She would teach them to kill on the grass plains, hiding to drive the buck as we do who are out of the open. At midnight I heard them together, full tongue on the trail. At the dawn wind I found them stiff in the grass. 4 free people, 4 when this moon was new. Then sought I my blood right, and found the Dahole." "How many?" said Mowgli quickly. The pack growled deep in their throats. "I do not know. 3 of them will kill no more. But at last they drove me like the buck. On my 3 legs they drove me. Look, free people." He thrust out his mangled forefoot, all dark with dried blood. There were cruel bites low down on his side, and his throat was torn and worried. "Eat," said Akela, rising up from the meat Mowgli had brought him, and the outlier flung himself on it. "This shall be no loss," he said humbly when he had taken off the first edge of his hunger. "Give me a little strength, free people. I also will kill. My lair is empty, that was full when the moon was new, and the blood debt is not all paid." Phao heard his teeth crack on a haunch bone and grunted approvingly. "We shall need those jaws," said he. "Were there cubs with the Dahole?" Nay, red hunters all, grown dogs of their pack, heavy and strong. For all that they eat lizards in the Deccan." What Wantala had said meant that the Dahole, the red hunting dog of the Deccan, was moving to kill, and the pack knew well that even the tiger will surrender a new kill to the Dahole. They drive straight through the jungle, and what they meet they pull down and tear to pieces. Though they are not as big nor half as cunning as the wolf, they are very strong and very numerous. The Dahole, for instance, do not begin to call themselves a pack till they are 100 strong, whereas 40 wolves make a very fair pack indeed. Mowgli's wanderings had taken him to the edge of the high grassy downs of the Deccan, and he had seen the fearless Daholes sleeping and playing and scratching themselves in the little hollows and tussocks that they used for lairs. He despised and hated them because they did not smell like the free people, because they did not live in caves, and above all, because they had hair between their toes, while he and his friends were clean-footed. But he knew, for Hati had told him what a terrible thing a Dahole hunting pack was. Even Hati moves aside from their line, and until they are killed, or till game is scarce, they will go forward. Akela knew something of the Daholes, too, for he said to Mowgli quietly, "It is better to die in a full pack than leaderless and alone. This is good hunting and my last. But as men live, thou hast very many more nights and days, little brother. Go north and lie down. If any live after the Dahole has gone by, he shall bring thee word of the fight." "Ah," said Mowgli quite gravely. "Must I go to the marshes and catch little fish and sleep in a tree? Or must I ask for help of the Banderlog and crack nuts while the pack fight below?" "It is to the death," said Akela. "Thou hast never met the Dahole, the Red Killer, even the striped one." "Awa, awa," said Mowgli pettingly. "I have killed one striped ape, and sure am I in my stomach that Shere Khan would have left his own mate for meat to the Dahole if he had winded a pack across 3 ranges. Listen now, there was a wolf, my father, and there was a wolf, my mother, and there was an old grey wolf, not too wise, he is white now, was my father and my mother. Therefore he raised his voice, I say that when the Dahole come, and if the Dahole come, Mowgli and the free people are of one skin for that hunting, and I say, by the bull that brought me, by the bull Bagheera paid for me in the old days, which ye of the pack do not remember, I say that the trees and the river may hear and hold fast if I forget. I say that this my knife shall be as a tooth to the pack, and I do not think it is so blunt. This is my world which has gone before me." Thou dost not know the Dahole, man with a wolf's tongue," said Won-tolla. "I look only to clear the blood debt against them ere they have me in many pieces. They move slowly, killing out as they go, but in 2 days a little strength will come back to me, and I turn again for the blood debt. But ye, free people, my word is that ye go north and eat but little for a while till the Dahole are gone. There is no meat in this hunting." "Hear the outlier," said Mowgli with a laugh. "Free people, we must go north and dig lizards and rats from the bank, lest by any chance we meet the Dahole. He must kill out our hunting ground, while we lie hid in the north till it please him to give us our own again. He is a dog, and the pup of a dog, red, yellow-bellied, lairless, and haired between every toe. He counts his cubs, 6 and 8 at the litter, and though he were Chikai, the little leaping rat, as though he were Chikai, the little leaping rat. Surely we must run away, free people, and beg leave of the peoples of the north for the offal of dead cattle. You know the saying, north are the vermin, south are the lice, we are the jungle. Choose ye, oh choose, it is good hunting for the pack, for the full pack, for the lair of the litter, for the in-kill and the out-kill, for the mate that drives the doe, and the little cub within the cave. It is met, it is met, it is met, and there we will pause.